Officials from the National Electoral Commission (NEC) and other election stakeholders gathered at the New Brookfield Hotel from Tuesday 28th to Thursday 30th January 2020 in a 3-day training that looks at issues appertaining to gender and disability mainstreaming in electoral processes in Sierra Leone. The training was pioneered by the Gender Section of NEC in collaboration with the European Union Governance Programme with funding from the European Union. The training, however, is part of efforts to help raise participants' awareness of the inclusion process when it comes to elections in Sierra Leone. Miata French is NEC's commissioner in the Western area. She spoke on the importance of including persons living with disabilities in electoral processes and NEC's commitment in seeing that done in subsequent elections.
I would like to say that this is a process that we have to be committed to, not just because it's the vogue, but because it really means something to us as Sierra Leoneans. We know that post-war, we have a lot of people who are amputees who have serious challenges in participating. Fortunately, in terms of disabilities from polio, we do not have very many new cases, but we have a lot of old ones and people who are of voting age. They're all over. So it is something that we cannot avoid. It's right in our face. I am sure in any given day, as we move around in terms of doing our daily activities, we do encounter these people. And I think it's time that we really take the issue very, very seriously.
Persons living with disabilities represent various ethnic, religious, socio-economic, and gender groups. They form approximately 15% of the world's population, roughly 1 out of every 7. 1.80% live in low-income countries like Sierra Leone. Meanwhile, getting women and persons living with one form of disability or the other to fully participate in electoral processes in Sierra Leone has almost always proved to be a non-starter, save for recent efforts. William Davis is Executive Secretary at the National Electoral Commission (NEC). He identifies the efforts of the EU in putting mechanisms in place to make a sharp shift from the current situation.
The EU made sure that when they come in to support, it's not just an EU thing. They come in with what they want to see. It's a partnership. So NEC and the technical project management team worked together assiduously to agree on the priorities, the needs for this particular project. We worked with the consultant and we came up with an inception report. We agreed. One of the things we agreed was this particular aspect of gender and disability. The second aspect around or with regards to the first results is that of the strategic planning process. The EU is supporting our strategic planning process for the period 2020 to 2024.
In 2019, NEC, with support from the EU, documented gender and disability frameworks that would serve as a guide in the way issues relating to gender and disabilities are handled during subsequent elections. However, the president for the Sierra Leone Union on Disability Issues, SLUDI, Santigi Kagbo, still believes that current efforts by NEC to mainstream disability issues during elections are robust only on paper than what the eyes can see on the ground. Speaking at the start of the training earlier this week, the deputy team leader of governance and civil society of the EU delegation in Sierra Leone, Ivan Navas, recognized efforts by NEC and other stakeholders in bringing on board marginalized groups in electoral processes, stressing that gender equality and disability rights were core in the values of the European Union.
All the stakeholders for the continued involvement in the electoral reform and democratization process in Sierra Leone. The NEC Commission, by adopting a new gender and disability, demonstrates its commitment to the promotion of women's and people with disabilities participation in electoral processes in Sierra Leone. Gender equality, women's rights and people with disability rights are the very core of the EU values. Ensuring women's political rights is not just a moral imperative. for all democratic society. History has shown that the inclusion of women in politics is one of the most effective means to ensure peace and to support conflict prevention. You cannot achieve transformation or anything in another society without the help of that society. The EU, as a global actor, promotes gender equality and women's and girls' rights, not only within the EU, but also worldwide and its actions across the world.
Mr. Navas further called on authorities, especially the Sierra Leone Parliament, to ensure an enabling environment for women to fully participate in elections, noting also that people living with disabilities should be given a say in democratic processes. The acting chief electoral commissioner of NEC, Edmond Alpha, thanked the EU for what he described as the EU's continuous efforts in supporting the work of NEC, while pledging that NEC's officers would be professional in doing their work, more so now with the presence of a plethora of experts in their midst. The support to NEC is an integral part of the financial agreement signed between the European Union and the Republic of Sierra Leone in October 2017 to ensure continuation of partner support to NEC in post-election period with support from the 11th European Development Fund. For GLA TV Online Special News, I am Abdullah Gla reporting.